So let's talk about exploring. If you were all alone on your spaceship with no one to talk and nothing to do, you may go looking around for some friendly crewmates and a place where you could have some sand in the sand. Unfortunately, for like some and all, there's no guidance system to help them find meaning in the universe. When it comes to the vast expanse of natural language, basic logic just won't cut it. So what's a poor quantifier to do? So I am Moti Lieberman and this is the link space. When you want to explain the way the universe works, coming up with mathematical models can be really useful, and this applies to language too. The most basic bits of a system like predicate logic can capture the meanings of the adjective and verb, and it does a good job with connective like and or. On top of that, predicate logic uses quantifier symbols that can represent the meaning of words like all and some. But we have a bunch of quantifier that just does too. How about words like few and many and most? Can we use logic to present these too? Well, like a bathroom brick on a backward planet, that easier said than done. In fact, in the 1980s, a couple of linguists mathematically proved that no matter how hard you try, you never make it work, even for a really simple sentence like most toasters just make toast. The combination of quantifier and quantitives could ever come close to mathematically meaning what we want this expression to mean. Well, what about if you want to invent a new quantifier? Say one that means more than half. Even with that, no matter that curry of symbol you try to cook up, not manage to exactly match speaker intuitions about what most toasters just make toast really means. The problem is that we have no way of limiting where quantifier have to look to calculate whether something is true or false. This upside down a and backward E in logic word by scanning through the whole universe and checking every single thing in it to see whether they found that they are looking for was how they defined, and that's how our made-up quantifier M's works too. Say there is just one talking toaster in the whole universe, while the rest stay silent and just make toast. Our intuition is that most toasters just make toast fell true. But since most things in the universe aren't toaster, the logical version of the sentence comes out false. It calls everything that's not a toast default toaster against the sentence, whether it's an applicant or not. And since that doesn't match our intuitions about what the sentence means, that's not the best result. It's also not just the practical logical setup using and another constructions like with or the conditional will fail in the same kind of way. So we want a way the restricts the space and quantifier needs to look true. Thankfully, we have a set of theory of rescue us, which we talked about a while back. Instead of thinking of the quantifier in logic as boundary hunters scouring the whole universe to get the job done, we can think of them as hardworking technicians relating and comparing sets. For instance, in the sentence all of the crew escaped the squid, we can ditch our logical version and replace it with something simpler. We can just think of the set of all of the crew as being a subset of the all people who escaped the squid. So it turns out the meaning of the word all is just like the subsets relations, and in the same way, in the sentence some members of the crew are hologram. The meaning of some can be expressed using the operation of set instructions. The meaning of some just say that the intersections of the two sets comparing is empty. So there is at least one thing that's both of member of the crew and hologram. And we can use these tools to talk about other quantifier to like no, a no cat wants to be poorly dressed. We can represent the meaning of the sentence by saying that the intersections of these two sets is empty. Obviously, there is nothing that's but a cat and that also wants to be poorly dressed. Most importantly, we can finally get a grip on the meaning of most for a sentence like most crew members are afraid or Mr. Fleeble. We can write out its meaning by saying that the numbers of crew members who are afraid of Mr. Fleeble makes up more than half of all crew members. By mixing a little bit of set theory into this recipe, we are now redefined quantifier to be fundamentally binary. They take two sets and depending on how they are related to each other, split out either true or false. We have taken our original logical quantified and generalized the underlying idea to make it easier to talk about real human language. We made a generalized quantifier theory, but the coolest thing to come out of this is that once we look at world meaning in this way, we find patterns that seem to be universal across all human language. For one thing, all quantifiers seem to have the property of conservativity, which isn't a politic thing, it is a mathematical property we can spell out using set theory like this. That means quantifiers only care about the elements in the first set they combine with, and so they ignore anything in the second set that's not already in the first. Think back to our sentence, all crew members escaped the squid. We know that all is conservative because that sentence doesn't care what else may have escaped the squid, and the meaning doesn't change when we reword the sentence as all crew members are crew members that escaped the squid. It takes out the test with flying colors, and we can do the same for some, no, most, and the rest. Now, nothing stops us from inventing quantifiers that are not conservative, like we could say that golf means that the two sets is compared half the same size. So golf android have hair means there are as many androids in the universe as things with hair, and that's a lot. Since our method was all about the number through, it has to count through both sets in there entirely. If we try to shrink that second set down to only those things with hair that are androids, and there's are not a lot of those, we get golf androids are hairy androids, which seems to mean something different. It ignoring everything else that has hair, it fails the shame test or the real quantifier test. Words like this turned out to be easy enough to imagine, but since they are not conservative, you don't see anything like them out in the wild. It really looks like this is hardwired into language. Linguistics has looked into this by doing learnability experiments on young children between the ages of 4 and 6. Like, take this one first. The researchers split the kids into two groups and trained them on fake words like glib. For one group, the kids got a version of the word that met a conservative definition, but in the other, they were exposed to an impossible, non-conservative word. Then, afterward, the children were asked to apply glib in different scenarios to see if they had properly acquired what it means. Turned out, the group who been exposed to the conservative version managed to learn it, but the unfortunate kids that trained with the impossible version didn't perform any better than change. So even though we may not be conscious of the math that underlies our sentence, it still managed to constrain that was actually possible, guiding and shaping language in ways that most of us are not even aware of. So it's definitely worth it to keep exploring. So we have reached the end of the link space for this week. If you quantified everything conservatively, you'll learn that even something as sophisticated as predicate logic can really do justify to natural language. That set theory gives us an unavailable way to talk about the meaning of quantifier like all and most, and then when we apply the tools of math, we uncover deep connections that link together all human languages. The link space is produced by me, Moti Lieberman, and directed by the Adela Ellis Preface. This week's episode was written by Stefan Hartenis. Our editor is George Colum. Our music is by Shane Turns, and our graphic team is the Atelier Miosh. We are down in the comment below if you can bring the discussion back over to our website, where we'll have some extra material on this topic. Check us out on the Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, and try dropping by our new store. And if you want to keep expanding your own personal link space, please subscribe. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Shalom Pimpa!